A developer in Mayo has gazumped 8 buyers that were sale agreed to sell all 14 units to one buyer, leading to 8 very upset buyers. Of course, this is a terrible situation these individuals find themselves in, and I'm sure these people and many other people around the country have found themselves in similar situations, and it is a terrible situation to find yourself in. It's easy to criticize developers, make institutional investors the villains. It's easy to portray a developer that sold 14 units to one buyer as scum because 8 potential buyers lost out. And that is what will happen, and that's what the story will be for the next few days. Social media, the press, TDs will come out to condemn this type of behaviour and will say the rules need to change. But there are some inconvenient truths that many will dismiss, ignore, or totally be oblivious to because they don't understand how the development market actually works. But many of the same people will be happy to throw the first stones. I don't know who the developer was in Mayo. I have no idea who the properties were bought by, if it was a fund, a housing body, or the council. If the developer wants to reach out and shed some light on the situation, please do, but I am going to make a few educated assumptions. Inconvenient truth number 1. There was 14 houses and the first phase was launched back in July of 2022, so 9 months ago. And only 8 of those houses had gone sale agreed in that time. I do believe that only 5 houses were launched in the first phase, but only 8 of the 14 houses were sale agreed in that time. The total gross development value would have been around 3.1 million. The developer was still to sell about 1.5 million as there were 7 units still unsold. So that was a lot of money still hanging out there, and that's a huge risk to the developer. No contracts had been signed by any of the buyers. The properties were only sale agreed, and both parties can walk away at any time. And this is not the first time, and it won't be the last time, that a buyer will back out of a sale. Inconvenient truth number 2. Everyone knows interest rates are rising all the time, and I would be assuming that the developers' holding costs on the construction costs were rising all the time. There were 7 properties still unsold, and I would assume that there was increased pressure mounting on them because interest rates were rising. And this would have been putting pressure on the viability of the entire scheme. This would have been putting the developer's own business at risk, also their own family at risk. And while there was 8 families that were not able to purchase a home, the developer had to think about their long-term viability of their business, their staff, their contractors, their lenders, and even their family. Inconvenient truth number 3. We all know the eviction ban is ending soon, and people are looking for rented accommodation all around the country. And the rental crisis is actually far worse than the home buying crisis. According to DAF today, Mayo has 27 properties to rent and 921 properties for sale. Mayo also has one of the highest vacancy rates in the entire country. Housing bodies and councils have been tasked to find homes for people to rent as the eviction ban is ending. Therefore, it is likely that it is a council or approved housing body that are buying or benefiting from these 14 homes. And should the headlines be 8 families lose out on the opportunity to buy a home, with 14 families get the benefit of moving into a home provided by a housing authority? I know this sounds a little bit callous, but it is true. And sale agreed really means nothing. And sale agreed properties fall out of bed all the time. And they only really make the headlines when there's a villain to pin it on. Inconvenient truth number 4. I don't know if this is the first or one of many housing developments that this developer has been involved in, but this developer has done more to help the housing crisis by taking a risk and building these 14 homes than the majority of the people who will criticize them. It's very easy to criticize developers in the press or online. It's much harder to go out there and take a risk and build actual homes. There will be many comments that will say the developer is just out there for profit, and perhaps that is actually true, but without the profit being made, the developer can't go on and build more homes. They have to make a profit within each scheme for them to have the ability to go on and build even more homes. The developer now can sell this development, make a profit, move on to another development and develop even more much needed homes. Creating villains out of the people who are actually delivering homes is just bonkers. And I think you need to question yourself, do you really want to solve the housing crisis if you are criticizing and blaming the people who are actually delivering homes on the ground? I'm nearly sure that I'm going to lose some subscribers over this video. Hopefully you won't unsubscribe from the channel. I'm just trying to point out that there is two sides to the coin, and I'm saying the things that many people are afraid to say. I'm not saying I agree with the developer's decision. It should never have really happened. The issue is being caused because the government is interfering too much with the market and getting too much involved in the private market, and the average buyer is paying the price for it. The average buyer is being squeezed out of the market, and in some cases being squeezed out of the market by their own government. While it is terrible that some individuals have lost out on an opportunity to buy a home, any kind of knee-jerk reaction or decision around this, or policies around this, or criticizing developers or villainizing developers does not help solve the problem and doesn't create more houses coming onto the market. There's basically four pillars we need to solve the housing crisis. We need land, we need material, we need labour, and we need capital. And in that, we need more land zoned, more planning applications going through and being approved. We need more access to labour and material. And in terms of labour, we also need skilled labour, and developers are part of that skill set in terms of project managing and delivering developments all the way through. And finally, we need capital. We need to make sure we have money to pay for the land, pay for the labour, pay for the material, because without that capital, nothing really happens. And it's important not to drive that capital away or make it harder for developers to actually get the job done. I do hope, as always, that you enjoyed watching this. Hopefully you will continue to subscribe if you are subscribing already. If you're not subscribing already, do hit that button and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.